Hey, mamas, you are listening to the Motherhood is Ghetto podcast. We all know motherhood can be a beautiful thing, but girl, it can also be ghetto. Join me as we discuss some of the best and worst parts of being a mom raising kids, all while trying to figure out this thing called life. This ghetto is a safe space, mamas. So, welcome to the hood. Hey, mamas, welcome back to another episode of Motherhood is Ghetto. My name is Joy, and how y'all doing out there? If y'all doing all right, say amen, amen. Um, Thank you for tuning in to another episode. So, first off, let's get some business out of the way really quick. So, first of all, thank you to everyone who has purchased the Motherhood is Ghetto, the self-care journal for mothers. Thank you, thank you so much. Thank you for all who have shared it, with a special mother in your life. Thank you for everyone who has purchased and is supporting the Motherhood is Ghetto movement. I appreciate y'all so much. Y'all just do not even know. There's no words that can describe the amount of gratitude that I have for you all that are supporting me on this journey and supporting this movement. So thank you, thank you so much. And if you're listening and it's your first time listening and you don't already know, I have published a journal for mothers. Are they shooting out there? Did y'all hear that pop? There's something going on outside. But anyway, if you don't already know, I have published a journal, and it is called Motherhood is Ghetto, the self-care journal for mothers, and it is available right now on Amazon. So you can type in Motherhood is Ghetto and the journal will pop up. And it's a special journal. Not only does it have, free pages of journaling space, but it also has daily affirmations. It has guided journal prompts, and the journal itself is 160 pages, so it's something that you can have, and you know, you can do it daily, weekly, whatever suits you best. But I really hope that this helps, mothers who find themselves stressed and, just burnt out, overworked, underappreciated in some cases. And I hope this finds those mothers and is a way for you guys to kind of pour into yourself, let go of some of that stuff, and just really take care and love on yourself. So thank you again to all who have purchased. Thank you for sharing. And it is available right now on Amazon. So, also, too, I want to share something with my listeners because I appreciate y'all and I love y'all so much. And I wanted to share a little secret with you guys. So, if you don't listen to this podcast, then you're not gonna know. So this is like insider information that I want to share with you guys today. So, in addition to the Motherhood is Ghetto self-care journal for mothers, I am currently working on a grief journal. So the grief journal will be Death is Ghetto, and it is going to be specifically for widows. So I'm really excited about it. And I was thinking about what I would put in the journal and the self-care journal, like it for me, like, doing the manuscript for the self-care journal, like it was a no-brainer because like, I've been a mom for some time now, so I know like what kind of things like, at least I do for my self-care that I know has been helpful for me along my motherhood journey. But I got the idea to do a grief journal. And I was brainstorming. I had my little whiteboard and, I was writing down ideas and stuff like that. And, I was like sort of kind of getting overwhelmed you know, and I was like, let me just take a step back and, kind of pray about this because I am not, a doctor, psychiatrist, like nothing like that. So I didn't want this grief journal to be about, trying to figure out how you feel or take you through like the stages of grief. Like I didn't want it to be a journal like that. But I did want it to be a journal where, I could connect with widows because I feel like, and especially throughout my grief journey, I feel like, um, as far as being a grieving widow, it's a totally different kind of grief than it is losing a child or a friend or a sibling or a parent, grandparent. And I hear a lot of people say like, when people grieve, it's like, they kind of like give it this blanket thing that where like everyone's grief is the same, but everyone's grief is not the same. And I know, just speaking from my experience, the grief of a widow is something that cannot be compared to, the grief of a mother who lost her child, or, a grief of a child who's lost their parent. Like it's just different. So with this grief journal, I really wanted to speak to the widows because this grief journey is something that I'm getting familiar with and is becoming a part of, or not becoming, it's a part of my everyday life. So when I was brainstorming about what I would put in this journal, um, I prayed about it and I was asking God, like, God, what should I put in this journal? What should I include? I really want to help widows. I really want to help people through their grief journey. What do I need to be putting in this journal? And as I, quiet my mind to listen for the answer, something just popped up in my head, like a voice popped up in my head and it said it's not so much about what you put in the journal, it's more about what you don't leave out. And what you shouldn't leave out is God. So I was just like, oh my God, like, and then once I heard that, it was like all these ideas just started coming. And so I will say this about the grief journal that's coming. It is definitely for a widow who is a believer, whether you believe in God, Jesus Christ, you believe, God is source, universe, spirit, all that stuff, whatever it is you believe. If you believe that there's something more after this life, then this grief journal is for you. And honestly, if you don't believe that there's nothing after this life, then this grief journal is not for you, because in this grief journal is going to include prayers for you and your loved one in spirit. It's going to reference your loved one in spirit. So if you're not a believer and you don't believe that, your loved ones are still here with you even when they have crossed on into the next life, then this grief journal won't be for you, but it will be for some widows. And yeah, so that's the direction that I'm going with it. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about it. And and I'm taking my time with it because this is a labor of love for me. And this podcast truly has given me the inspiration to even think up these journals, like the Death is Ghetto episode that I did after I lost my husband just catapulted my podcast. And I want to give back. And I know like this podcast is really helpful for a lot of people, and I'm glad that it is. Like, I thank God that it is. Um, but I want to make a larger impact, and I want to leave a bigger footprint or imprint, in this world. So this is my way of just giving back, and in whatever way, shape, or form, no matter how big or small that I can. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned for that. And apologies if you can hear my sons in the background. I had to kick them out of my office so I could record this podcast. So they were doing their little bro bonding thing. And I interrupted them and I was like, I gotta record this podcast, y'all. And it was so funny because I was telling them, I was like, you gotta y'all gotta spray. I hit them with a little bit of that pig Latin. And I was like, and I was telling them, you guys gotta skedaddle. And my son Solomon, he said, Mom, speak clearly and just tell us what you want us to do. I said, I want you to get out right now so I can record this podcast. So apologies if you can hear them in the background. They're bonding, they're having fun. But let's get into today's episode. It's probably going to be a little bit quick. It's going to be a little bit of a story time. So let's just get right into it. So I don't know if you guys have seen this video that was kind of circulating around before the whole Montgomery beatdown video. Um, we're not going to talk about that in this episode, okay? But y'all already know what it is. Amen, amen. So there was a video circulating with this lady. I guess she was like a pastor in a church, and she was praying over this young boy who had autism. And she was praying over the little boy and pretty much trying to pray or saying, a prayer like to pray autism out of him. And, saying, that, you know, I don't know. I can't really explain it. I probably should put a little sound bite in here of the video. But basically, like, she had her hand on him and was praying over him and that God remove his autism or take his autism away. The bad behavior, like the bad behavior that autism brings. Like she was pretty much praying it away or whatever, or praying over him that God would remove the autism. Like as if it was a curse. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because when I saw the video, um, it was a little bit triggering for me because, as you guys know, my son Solomon, he's autistic. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. So, and we've come a very, very, very long way with Solomon. And honestly, like if we had it to do all over again, and God said like, okay, you could have a son with autism or not, or have a son without autism, like, or Solomon specifically, I would choose for him to have autism all over again because the type of parent that it made me, or it makes me, and the things that I've learned and the way that I look, at the world, like my son sees it, like that's something I would have never got to experience had my son been born without autism. So I thoroughly appreciate him and who he is, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. But when I saw this video, it was triggering to me, and it made me think of um, an instance that I had with Solomon when he was very young, when he was, first diagnosed with autism. So I wanted to share that with you guys and, kind of share this little story time with you guys and shout out to parents who are parenting a child with special needs. Shout out to you, like shout out to us, because it's not easy all the time. Sometimes it's very hard, there's nights like we cry ourselves to sleep because we just want the best for our children. but we're tired, like, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take care of a child with special needs. So shout out to you if you're a parent of a special needs child. Um, but in this story, I believe Solomon was like about 3 years old, or he was maybe three going on 4 years old. And when Solomon was first diagnosed with autism, Solomon was nonverbal. So Solomon didn't speak at all. And most of the time, like if he wanted to get our attention or something like that, like he just screamed a lot. He screamed whether he was happy, whether he was sad, like he just screamed all the time. Um, but very early on in his diagnosis, we really didn't know like what his triggers were and stuff like that. So we were very, me and my husband, that's when I say we, me and my husband, we didn't know anything about autism. Like we had heard about it, but we didn't know what it was. So there was this one time where we were out. We went to a buffet, and I think we went for like Father's Day or something like that. So, the whole fam was out there. My father-in-law was out there. A couple of our other family members. We all went to the buffet, and we had learned through his diagnosis that Solomon was really sensitive to sound, which we didn't know before. So that was one of his triggers, like that would make him upset that we didn't know about before. So it was super noisy or anything like that. Like he would just start yelling and crying and all this good stuff. So we're in the line at the buffet, and I want to say it was Father's Day because I feel like the line was long, from what I can remember, and we were waiting for a while. So we're standing there and we're waiting, and my son, like, he's starting to get a little, antsy, and he's, kind of crying and whining. He keeps sitting down on the ground and all this stuff. And then we're standing in line, and then all of a sudden, like, he just has a complete meltdown while we're in the line, and he's kicking, he's screaming, he doesn't want to be held. And so then I start, I'm trying to comfort him and console him, and I'm like, what's wrong, Solo? What's wrong? Like, trying to help him feel better, but just nothing that I'm doing is making him feel better. So as I'm standing there, it dawned on me. I was like, oh my God, like it's the noise, the forks on the plates, the sounds of the plates, like clamoring, like from, the waiters and stuff bringing out plates, the talking, the music, the just everything, all those sounds in that buffet casino, whatever. It was just really, it put him on edge, and then it was just too much for him to handle. And so I was like, I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna take him outside, for a little break. And so, I'm carrying him outside, and as I'm carrying him outside, he's kicking, he's screaming, he doesn't want to be held, he's trying to drop himself on the ground, because well, I know for Solomon, whenever he would get upset when he was younger, he would want to lay down on the ground, like, as if to kind of like center himself, or kind of just like ground himself so that way he feels more secure. So he's trying to get out of my arms, and I'm trying to carry him outside. So we finally get outside, and I'm still like, I'm trying to console him, but at the same time I don't want him to drop out of my arms because now we're outside, it's concrete, so he can hurt himself. So I'm trying to hold him up, and I'm doing my best. And then also too, back then when he was nonverbal, he used to hit a lot. So when I couldn't understand what he was saying, or I just wasn't, like, he would start hitting. So we're out there, he's kicking, he's screaming, he's hitting, all that stuff, and he's trying his best to drop down on the ground, and I'm trying to keep him up. And as I'm doing this, these two ladies walk outside. And these ladies at the time, they're elderly. They had to have been like in their 70s back then. Now there was 10 years later, probably now they're in their 80s. But it seemed like they were definitely older women, and you can tell like they were church women because it was a Father's Day, it was Sunday, and you could just tell like they had just went there like after church or whatever, and you could just tell they were church ladies. And they walk out and they're watching what's going on with me and my son. And they're just looking, and the way that they're looking at me is like I can't control my child, and I need to do something about it, or I need to whoop his ass or something. Y'all know them old, I don't want to say old black grannies, but like the older generation, of parents. They a lot of them thought that that was the answer or the solution for everything, was to whoop the child. So they're looking at me like that, like, why am I not whooping my son, and why is he acting like that? So then one of the ladies comes up to us, and I'm trying to calm down my son. I'm trying my best to ignore them because I know that they're looking at me. And one of them comes up to me and she says, "Do you want me to whoop him?" And she was so serious, y'all. Like, she looked at me over her glasses because she was wearing glasses, and she like dipped her head down, and her eyes were looking at me over her glasses, and she said, "Do you want me to whoop him?" And I said, "Ma'am." Y'all, that's what I said when I saw that video. Like, I was just super triggered because, you know, having a child with special needs is one thing, but having an autistic child is a whole nother ball game. And you don't know me, you don't know my son, you don't know what's wrong with him, like, you don't know what's going on with him. Like, how dare you, offer to beat my child? Like, I was flabbergasted, but because of the person that I am and the way I was raised, I was not disrespectful, which I could have been, and I would have had every right to be, but I was not disrespectful to her. And I kindly said, "No, I don't need your help, but thank you for offering." And I proceeded to continue to console my child. So they walked off. And me and Solomon stayed out there for about a good 30 minutes. And he finally got himself down on the ground. So once he got on the ground, I was like, "Okay, well, if you want to stay on the ground, that's fine. Like, I'm going to be right here with you until you're ready." So he sat there on the ground, and he started to quiet down, and then quiet down some more. And then once he seemed calm, I said, "Okay, are you ready? Are you ready to go back?" And so I stood up and I put my hand out, and he grabbed my hand, and we walked back in there and sat down and ate, with everybody, and that was it. So, but yeah, watching that video of the pastor lady like trying to pray autism out of the boy, like, it was just really triggering for me. And like, people just really don't understand, like, that, like, we love our children the way that they are, like, no matter what is going on with them, what disability they may have or special need they may have. Like, we love our children. And and it's just, I don't know, just the audacity of some people, like, to think that, you know something can be solved, like, just, I don't know. I know that prayer works. I know it does. Like, I'm a firm believer of prayer, but there's nothing that I need to pray away in my children or in my son. Like, because my son is awesome. Like, like I said, like, I wouldn't trade my son for anything. I wouldn't, trade him to be quote unquote normal, like, because he's normal to me. Like, I love who Solomon is, and I love the fact that, you know, he's super honest about everything. Like, but also too, I love like how blunt he is and how he just tells it like it is. And I've learned so much being an autism parent. Like, I've learned so much throughout this journey that I wouldn't trade it in for the world. And I don't know, like it was just really triggering when I saw that video. I was like, what is going on? Like, as if it's a curse to have autism and it's something that has to be prayed away. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, yeah, no, that's just like if you have something going on, like, with you, like, and it's something that's outside of your control, like you were literally born like that, like, you can't pray it away. Like, it's that's you, like, it's a part of you, like, that's a part of who you are. So I don't know. I just felt a bit triggered by it. Um, but yeah, but I just wanted to share that story with you guys really quick because honestly, like it's already hard on some of us, parenting a child with special needs you know, and luckily, well, not really luckily, but it's just that for us in our situation, my son ended up developing as he grew older. So, as far as, the first 4 years of his life, he couldn't speak. Now he's speaking, like, and now like he's able to be independent and stuff like that. So I'm definitely grateful for that and the journey that we've been on. But at the end of the day, it's still a journey, and there's still things that I have to do right now, to make sure when my son is an adult, like he can continue to be independent as an adult, take care of himself. Of course, mama gonna be nearby. Like mama gonna be close for sure. But this is something that's gonna be with my son for the rest of his life, and I'm trying to teach him and guide him on how to, navigate his life as a young man with autism. And it also made me too. It made me think about um it made me think about my husband a lot because like my when Solomon was first diagnosed, it was very hard for my husband to come to terms with it. And it was just hard for him to wrap his head around the idea of autism. And but once he did, like he was, a proud autism dad, and he, was happy to educate other people, about autism. And if anyone asked about Solomon, like he was the first to be like, "Yep, my son has autism. This is what it means." And whoop de whoop. And nope, he's perfect. Like, and he was a big advocate for Solomon in school last year and the year before, and getting him more access to general education classrooms and stuff like that because he knew what Solomon was capable of and he never doubted Solomon. And now, today, Solomon is thriving. Amen. Solomon is able to sit in a general education classroom with other children who are non-autistic and be able to cooperate, listen to the teacher, do the work. Amen, amen. So, like all this stuff, like I said, I'm just I don't know, like I said, I wouldn't trade my son for the world. Like if I had it to do all over again, I would give birth to him the same way and have all the things like play out the same way they played out because yeah, he's not missing nothing. Like he's amazing. And yeah, those first few years they were rough. I was getting my ass beat cuz he was whooping me. But not like that though. Like not definitely not like that. It was just he had no other way to communicate and he would get so frustrated and I was frustrated too like cuz I didn't know and once we started going through everything like it was just very very eye-opening and y'all we were learning sign language like to communicate with him and he was doing sign language for a little bit and it just ended up being a beautiful process for us. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and especially if there's any mamas listening who have children with special needs, just know that it's going to be a journey. It's a forever journey, but you got this because God chose you to be their parent, and they knew that you would be the best parent for them. So just keep going. Don't give up. It's going to be okay. It's going to be hard sometimes, but it will be okay. That I can promise you. So that's it for today's episode. Don't forget to follow the podcast, and share with anyone who you think might find it useful. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at motherhood_ghetto. And if you would like for me to discuss any topics on the podcast, or if you have any questions for me about motherhood or the motherhood journey or anything pertaining to parenting, motherhood, please feel free to send me a DM. I would love to answer your guys' questions on the podcast. And also, just last quick reminder, if you haven't already grabbed your journal, go ahead and go on to Amazon. It is called Motherhood is Ghetto, the Self-Care Journey. Y'all got me messing this up. Not y'all. Motherhood is Ghetto, the Self-Care Journal for Mothers. It's available right now on Amazon. And thank you so much for listening and tuning in. And until next time, mamas. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Don't forget to follow the podcast and share with anyone who you think may enjoy it. And follow me on Instagram at motherhood_ghetto. Also, feel free to DM me if you have any experiences, opinions, or views on motherhood you'd like me to share on the podcast. Until next time, mamas.